Welcome to the Daily HiFi podcast. My name is Chana. With me, as always, we've got Joe, Michael, Aaron. What's going on, fellas? Happy Monday.
What's happening, man?
What is up? Yeah. So I'm glad to have you guys because, last time it was a holiday and you guys were doing stuff.
We bailed on
Mike
you, man. I
was
was babysitting. Yeah,
babysitting.
my grandson.
Your grandson,
My nephew.
Oh my gosh. That's why I don't let you babysit. You don't even know who it is.
This was the first time I had a chance to keep him because, like, they're still in, like, what do you call that? I don't know, protective mode. Even for me, they're like, hey, it's been a long time since you had kids, right, Dad? And I'm like,
shoot, man.
What the heck does that mean?
It's totally different.
At least they didn't try to leave him with me, man. That would be.
They don't have cloth diapers anymore, Michael.
Cloth diapers.
I never had that. I didn't have that.
Well, when the stork came and dropped them off at Michael's house, it's been a long time since that happened.
I know nowadays they just email kids, man. It's weird.
Right.
I don't get
they
that.
do.
The whole millennial stuff.
No, Amazon drones just drop them off, don't they?
It's like, holy cow, man.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody in the chat?
Yeah. What's up? Who we got here? Jed. We got Croson. We got Keeping Up with the Joneses. Brian. Buddy. Mark Wilson. Jayhawk. Theater.
Oh, yeah.
What's up, everybody?
Bodie,
all right.
face.
Bodie, what's happening, buddy?
Yeah.
I think it's
SC
like
Audio.
Chris Wyndham, Tim Perry. Oh, we got a super chat
Puerto
already.
Rico.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
I
Thomas.
saw your. I think you had a question earlier, but it was really early, and I don't know if
they don't.
Oh, here, is it this one?
Yeah, there it is.
There we go.
Early question. There you go. Let's hit it real quick.
Do Focal Chorus surround sound as good as a Focal 301? And can I use a Focal surround and front speakers? Just need help to decide what to do with the Focal Dome Flex for heights. All right, hold on a second. So let's look these things up. Focal.
Yep.
What do you say, Cora?
What is okay? Are those the ones that we heard at that one CES?
Yes, Joe.
And the Focal Chorus surrounds.
So the thing about the Focal Core surrounds, and I'm bringing it up because this is exactly what I thought it was going to be. These things are not mountable, or not. They have to be mounted on a wall. See, so
Kind of on walls.
Yeah, they're like on walls, right? There is a this is the mounting bracket for the, but yeah, it's an on wall kind of a situation here. So. That's what he's talking about. Oh, $299. It's on sale. Fantastic. Do they sound as good as the Focal 301? All right, what's the Focal 301? Let me look that up. Focal, and we're here on
Yes, that's a bookshelf speaker.
Favorite website.
Aaron's favorite site. Actually, he doesn't mind now. He doesn't mind.
I don't mind now.
They pay a big commission on that site. Huh?
There you go.
Yeah. Okay,
man.
We're friends now.
So the Focal 301. And can I use the Focal surrounds and front speakers? Just need help. Okay,
hold on a second. Can you zoom into one of those, or like just click into one of those and show the cone? Because this is gonna lead into something else.
Okay.
All right. That's as close as you can get to that cone.
You should be able to bring it.
All right. There. Okay, look at that cone. All right. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Concave cone.
We'll look at the texture too.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a flex. And so he's talking about, what do I have to do for Focal Dome Flex? It's actually flex, not flex. This Focal 301 and the Dome Flex will have more of a cohesive sound because they're made out of the same materials. The core is a little bit different. They use a slate fiber driver for the main. So yeah, Thomas, if you're looking for something that matches the Dome Flex, it would be the Aria line, which is the speakers that I have upstairs, or the 300 series in wall or on wall. So they do this all in multiple different ways. So and that's with the aluminum magnesium tweeter and the flax dome woofers, or flax cone woofers. Sorry. So
he says Aaron will not be happy with that tweeter.
What's wrong with that tweeter?
I don't know.
What is that tweeter made out of?
It's an innie. It's an innie. He likes them Audis.
Is that beryllium or aluminum?
Aluminum magnesium.
I seriously doubt that's beryllium at that price. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, no.
These are really inexpensive.
Yeah. Well, they're $1,000 for a single, but still, knowing Focal, I'd be really surprised if that was really
Okay.
Aaron,
No,
your mic
really-
sounds a little hot.
Yeah, your mic is a little bit hot.
It's like
Yeah.
clipping.
What about now?
That's
Oh,
better.
hold on.
It's still a little loud, but it's all
Hold
good.
on. There you go. No, my kid was messing with this stuff.
There you go.
There you
All
go.
right. Cool.
There we go.
So
There we
okay. Last time I was hoping that you'd be on, Aaron, because we were talking about. Oh, did you answer the question? By the way, Chana.
Yeah, I said that the Focal 301 would match the Focal
Okay.
Dome Flax more than the Chorus. So
Alright,
that
I didn't want
that would be
to
my
throw us
answer.
off track, but last time, Aaron, I was talking about how typically you're supposed to listen first, do your subjective stuff, and then measure. Because the thinking is that the objective measurements will kind of skew things, I guess. What is the thinking?
Mhm.
What is the thinking behind that?
For me, if I see the measurements first, and I'm going to go into it not like necessarily expecting to hear those things, but looking for those things that are there, right? Like, so if there's a bump around like 1K, then I expect it might be hot around 1K. Like I'm looking, I'm already biased toward expecting to hear that, and it might take my mind off of like hearing something else. That's kind of the notion there, right?
Okay.
I don't know if it really, really matters. If it really, really, really matters, but that's why I don't do it that way.
Okay.
Well, tell me what you want. What you really, really want.
So
I'll tell you
alright.
what I really, really want.
I see you, buddy.
Somebody else finish it. No, we're not done until somebody finishes. I wanna.
All right.
I really, really, really want to think.
Hey, buddy, thank you for the huge super chat, $50.
Yes, sir, man.
Woo! I think this is the biggest super chat we've ever received.
I think so.
on the
He's a
channel.
baller.
Yeah, my
Buddy's a baller.
right,
What
so
did
he's
he
got
say?
lots
Thank
of
you,
questions.
fellas, for Amp and Amp brand, Chana and Youthman, center speaker Aaron, and Monoprace Soundstage 3 Joe recommendations, and everything else you help with. Well, we truly appreciate you, buddy. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and it looks like Matt finished it up.
There you go.
Yeah.
So real quick, what was I saying? We were talking about
Measurements.
Yeah,
listening
listen first or
listening
listen
first.
after.
Okay, so I have to be honest as a reviewer about the process and what happens, right? And one of the things I was saying is that the visual aspect, the fact that I see the speaker first, already is going to bias me in some way. So I don't know how many people have reviewed that one Focal speaker with that flax cone, but if I would look it up right now, and if anybody says, "Oh, it has an organic sound," the mid-range has an organic sound. Why do they say that? Because it looks kind of like an organic material, right? Does it have an organic sound? I don't know. I haven't heard it. Or the tweeter. Oh, it's a little bit metallic.
Oh yeah, I see that one all the time. All the time. Yeah.
Yeah, they never say that about a soft dome tweeter, right? It doesn't sound metallic because it's not metal.
Just so they say it's soft. Is that what they say?
Yeah,
they call it soft.
It's a little bit soft.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like they describe it based on the characteristics.
Right.
And it was really obvious actually when I reviewed this ELAC BS41, and it's like a very dark speaker, right? Like nothing about it has any accent. It's just like a black box, black cone, black surround, just everything is just, and then I measured it and had a rising treble response, right? And people are like, "Oh, this sounds a little bit dark." Like, how does it sound? How? Like, in what? The measurement doesn't show that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not dark. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's not a dark speaker. It's a bright speaker, but it doesn't. Anyway, my whole point was just that I'm already biased by looking at the speaker and knowing. I've lifted it up. It's heavy. Okay, that puts something into my mind, right? So all these things. Anyway, I recently had a bunch of speakers to review, and I decided, you know what? Let me try something different. Let me measure them first, right? Because if they're complete garbage, I don't even want to waste time. Because I have so many speakers, and if they're garbage, I just don't want to even deal with it. I don't want to sit and listen to. It's a lot of work, right? You unbox them all. Right, especially if it's a setup with a center channel, floor standing, all these speakers, right? You're like, if these suck, I just don't even want to. They whatever. So I tried it the other way, measure it first, and I know you're not supposed to do that, but what I found out was it kind of freed up my it freed me up to say whatever I want about it, because it made me realize that when I listen first and I measure second, I feel like I don't want to be proven wrong by the measurements. I don't want to say something really ridiculous. Me personally. I don't know if
for sure.
but I don't want to say like, you know what? The base is like this, and then the measurements like totally contradict that.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's like a pressure that I have because I'm making a video that I'm putting out to other people. They can comment on it, and I don't want to be the guy like. It's not even that I'm like worried that they're not going to trust me, but it's like, I don't want to have to explain in the comments. It's just a thing that you have to explain that, yeah, I heard this, but the measurement didn't say this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes like, oh, well, see, it told you the measurements don't matter. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. It's just that they do matter. They go together. It's just my room did this to the sound, right? And it's being able to separate out the sound that is measured and the sound of the room, the interaction with the room and all that. Mm-hmm. And I guess it was more useful to me doing it this way because I was looking for the issues. So I saw an issue in the graph and I'm like, let me see if I can hear that. To me, that's more useful because that's what other people do when they're buying something, right? When somebody's going to buy something, they're going to see it. They're going to see the price. They're going to see the specs. They're going to see maybe the frequency response if the manufacturer provides it. And the idea to me is, do you compare, like, I have an expectation now of what this thing does. Does it meet my expectation? To me, that's a good way to review things. And I didn't feel like it skewed my opinion because I don't care. Like at that point, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if the measurement said it's like this, but I hear this, I can still freely say, I know what the measurement says. I measured it, but it still sounded like this too. Like I feel confident that it measured this, sounded like this. That's probably my room. That's probably this. That's probably something else that's causing that. But that is what I'm experiencing. I don't know. I talked about this the whole time, and I was really hoping that you'd be here to kind of like say maybe why it's wrong or.
No, I think it's fine. I have a different outlook on that. The reason that I like to measure after I listen, because I like to listen and take notes, and then I like to compare, right, and try to see like I don't care necessarily about being quote unquote wrong, based on what the measurements show. For me, it's more about the learning exercise. So when I hear something, did I actually hear that? Or is there something in the measurements that maybe is not immediately noticeable, but it is there if you dig down a little bit more, right? So we know about on versus off axis sound. And most magazines and most online publications tend to focus solely on axis sound, right? So it's very easy to have a different listening impression compared to what you see in the single on axis response. But then if you look at the off axis response as well, and you factor in like what's going on in your room, then things start to kind of fall in place and click. So for me, that's why I like doing it more from that perspective. But honestly, dude, I don't think there's really a right or wrong. I think it's just like you as a reviewer, what works well for you. And I will listen first, take notes, measure, and then go back and listen, right? So I'll go back and listen to maybe apply EQ, or I'll use the measurements to help me like try to decide what's the best placement. Because a lot of times when we're setting these things up, you guys know, sometimes it's hard to find the optimal position for a speaker, especially if it's not like a well-designed speaker, because placement really, really matters. Then if it's a good design speaker, then placement isn't super, like, I guess, important per se. You could be off by a little bit and it's still going to sound pretty decent. But if some speakers just do poorly off axis, then the difference in sound from 0 to 10 or 15 degrees can be drastically different. So that's why I also like kind of going back and using measurements for that as well, because it helps me hone in on, okay, well, I listened at on axis or something like that, or I thought off axis was the best way to go, and the measurements are showing me this thing. So let me try it this way, right?
Yeah. So you kind of go back and forth between them, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's for me, that's the best way, because the reason that I'm reviewing, or the way that I review things, is to kind of to try to correlate the measurements and to say why the measurements matter. It's not just to give my opinion, here's the data and I'm done. It's my big draw for what I do is correlating measurements to what I hear in my listening.
I guess for me, it ends up becoming a game of like how close can I get to what the microphone is going to show me. You know,
It could if you
becomes a
care
game
about that.
well, it's so I've heard you before say like, you know, there's something happening around 2K, right? Or 2.5K. So it's like the more specific you get in your subjective assessment,
Mm-hmm.
the more likely you can be wrong, right? So if I say the treble is like this, okay, well that's pretty general, right? But if I start saying 2K, if I start saying not 2K, 2.5K, right? The more specific you get, the more likely you're going to be wrong.
For sure. But I've also done that to where I've said, and I can't think of a specific review now, but I know I've run into this where I said it sounds like it's 800 hertz, but it could be an octave above that. And then I'll look at the measurements, and then sure enough, it'll be like 1600 or 2K. And then I'll go and fiddle with the EQ because now I have the measurement showing me this thing.
Right.
I'll use the EQ to apply based on the measurements, and I'll say, oh, that is what I'm hearing. It's not at 800, it's at 2K. You know, but that helps me as a listener, and my hope is that also helps people understand that there's more than just what you think you hear too. There's other aspects going along with that.
I guess the way that I was thinking about it, it was more that it's almost like in my assessment, there's not that much of a reason for me to talk about the frequency response of the speaker, because when it's in my room, of course, my room is doing so much, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like the measurement is going to do that aspect. The measurement is going to do a better job than me at evaluating the frequency response and the frequency range. So it's almost like, why am I trying to evaluate that? You know,
right. I get it.
Like I
understand what you're saying.
Is what it is. You know,
yeah.
Let me talk about the features and the things that I can't measure is kind of where I was at with it.
No, I completely understand what you're saying. I just, for what I do on my channel, I disagree. So I like to draw the correlation as best I can, because for me, it's more about learning about the measurements, because I am measurement focused, right? And I think it's important for people to understand that measurements can show you a number of things, and depending on how you look at them, you can easily draw the wrong correlation just as easily as you can the right correlation. And I come at it from that angle because I'm used to seeing people say, oh, measurements don't matter because stereo files showed this measurement, but I heard this. Well, it's like, well, stereo files measurements are flawed, number one. I mean, and it's not anything against them, but it's a plus or minus 30-degree window and then a near field microphone for the bass. Well, that means their bass hump is totally exaggerated. Like there's always plus 6 dB higher. No baffle step is taken into account. I mean, there's a lot of issues with stereo files measurement method. It's good that they do something. I'm not trying to knock it. And if stereophile guys are watching, nothing personal, but they're missing a lot, and there's a lot of room for interpretation. I saw this on the Steve Hoffman forum about a month ago when people were talking about, I think it's the new Mission speakers, and they got to talking about the Wharfdale Lintons.
Right.
And there were a few guys who were saying, well, stereophiles measurement so that the bass is pronounced on whatever speaker it was. And then somebody else came in and said, well, the reason it shows that is because their measurement method. And they actually say in the stereophile article, this is what's going on in the bass. I mean, it's the standard 2-sentence thing, but people always miss it, like continually. They miss that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of room for error if you don't take the time to explain. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. Yeah, so I agree with the correlation aspect. And to me, the measurement and then listening is not so much like I'm trying to explain what the mic or what the measurement already is doing. It's more like now I'm getting a better understanding of my room interaction.
Yeah,
I'm
that's a good way
in
to
my
do it,
listening
too.
position.
That's a perfectly valid angle to come at it. Whereas I'm coming at it from the perspective of, well, this is what this is going to sound like, right? Like this anechoic measurement gives you an idea of what the speaker is going to sound like. The estimated in-room response is the one I usually go to. And I say, based on this, you can kind of have an idea of the tonality. And this is what you can kind of expect for most rooms. But your example is perfectly valid too, where it's more, I guess, specific to your room and what you heard in that situation, right?
Well, it's just so different though, right? So you put a speaker in a big room, right? Take them away from the walls.
Right.
That's going to be totally different. Small room, away from the wall. My seat is near the back wall. Is the bass, like, how am I going to interpret the bass response?
Yeah. I usually don't touch the bass. Yeah. That's why I usually just don't touch the bass. Everything like 500 hertz.
You don't touch the bass over
there, Shauna?
Are you
Oh, that's
dropping the
great.
bass? You don't touch
I'm
it at all.
dropping
Just
all-
leave
it's,
it.
It's only treble only. But yeah, no, I hear you, man.
Aries Audio Corner, all treble, all the time.
all treble, all treble, all the time.
But doesn't the bass it determines how the rest of the speaker sounds, right? So my interpretation of the speaker
it's like
can
60%
really
of the sound,
change.
right? Yeah.
I can move it in this room. The bass is really good. Oh, I'm happy. Move it in this room. I'm like, oh man, I don't know about the speaker.
Yeah.
And to me, the problem is that my problem is with other reviewers, no names, but specific reviewers who don't take that into account, right? And so they assess this thing, in their whatever room it is, and do they even understand that it's a different? Like,
honestly, dude, I think half the time those dudes don't have a clue. I really do. I mean, I'm not saying that as shots fired. I really do believe half the time these guys don't have a clue what they're talking about. But that makes it sound like I think I do. So there you go.
Chana up there.
Yeah. Chana knows what I'm talking about.
Anyway, that's all I'm really.
Dude, no, I think that's fair.
If we're trying to analyze and we're trying to talk about measurements, I want to be honest and say, yeah, I tried to do that too. And you know what? It makes me feel nervous. And I write down my notes. I say, you know what? 2.5 kilohertz, this and that. I take the measurement and it's like nothing's happening there that I thought. I'm like, maybe I don't need to say that in the video. Maybe I don't need to say this out. You know what I mean? Why am I going to do that?
Yeah.
It's just going to lead to a discussion where I have to say, and then I have to explain myself, you know?
Yeah. I get it.
So,
it's okay. I think you can do it for whatever angle.
Anyway, there was some bigwigs over there at that we spoke to. Elon and I were speaking to, and like, I was like, hey, can I be frank? And they're like, please do. And so we talked a whole bunch about their system and stuff. And I also said, like, one of the things that's a big problem is I think a lot of these people think they hear actually than they do. And he's like, oh yeah, that's definitely a big problem that we're noticing, is everybody thinks they can hear better than they actually do. And that's, a problem in this space of reviewing speakers when there is no objective measurement taken. It's just, oh, these are great.
Yeah. No,
that's it. Point. That's it. That's all I need to say. These are great. So whatever room you have, whatever you're playing on them, they're great. They're perfect. Buy them.
Right.
Like,
buy them. Yeah. Well, that's right, man. And then I'll get more stuff from the company because I didn't say anything bad about them. Right. We know how this goes. I think us four, I can safely say that we're not like that. And there's a handful of other guys that I watch that I feel like I can actually trust what they're saying. But by and large, I feel like the majority of reviewers are not trying to make any waves, and that's unfortunate because truthfully, the videos that I create that get the most feedback are the ones where I'm like, I say I didn't like something, not necessarily being negative, but if I'm just honest and I'm
this is what I see, this is what I like, this is what I don't like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not scared to admit I'm a shill.
Oh yeah. For who? What water are you drinking right now?
Yeah, what is that?
It's generic, man. Circle K purified water.
Oh, there it is.
You sold out, man. You sold out.
I mean, I'm not sponsored by anybody at all. Just saying. Yeah. Just saying.
Okay. I would like to be Red Bull. I got the fake Red Bull here.
Jeez,
I wanted to try it out and see if it tasted like.
Isn't it called red? It's called red something.
Oh,
Red
that bougie.
Red Thunder. Red Bull to Red Thunder. Oh
Red
my God.
Thunder. Oh, shout out! Thank you for the super chat, Pioneer. By the way, thank you.
I love that Joe's drinking like generic Red Bull. Joe, I thought YouTube was a better career, man. I thought you were doing all right.
No, it's. I wanted to see if it tasted like it because it looked so similar. I'm like, I gotta try it. They're trying hard on the branding.
It's like 50 cents cheaper.
It's not.
So if you can't afford the $2, $2.50 for the Red Bull, you go with Red Thunder, right? At least it's not Red Donkey.
It's funny. I
have like Red Bull, Red Donkey, Red.
I have one of those soda streams where you can make your own, drinks. And this is like the flavor's so weak, I have to actually add my own kind of like flavoring to it. But yeah, as far as like being a shill, all that, I don't know, man. I think all of us here are honest. I mean, even in our personal chat, sometimes I'm like, we might review something, and then I'm like, did you really like that thing? I thought it sucked. So we'll have our own internal arguments like, no, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
At no point has anybody said, did a review, right? From this group here, nobody has ever done a review where they're like, yeah, this is really good, and then back to actually, you know what, it actually sucks.
No,
I just said that.
I've got
Never.
Emotiva asking me if they can send me the new updated RMC1 because it didn't do so favorably well in my review of it.
Yeah.
You know? They said they got most of the bugs worked out. I'm thinking, send me something with all the bugs. I'll be honest with you. That's what I'm waiting on.
We got most of the bugs out. Okay. And you want me to seriously like review this thing?
I love the company, but man, they just they struggle in that area.
Yeah.
Kind of along the same note, you know, about being honest, I think there are people who feel like if you're not super positive about a speaker or whatever that was loaned to you by the manufacturer, the manufacturer will never send you anything again. But I've actually learned that's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Even Clips has reached out to me and said, and I didn't get my stuff through Clips. I got it through Audio Advice or other dealers or people, friends, to review them. And I met one of the guys that works for Clips at the Audio Advice show, and he actually said, hey, for what it's worth, like we really do we value your feedback, even though it's not positive. And I thought that was really cool because, you know, he didn't have to say that. So.
If they really are passionate about making the best products that they possibly can within the budget that they've established for that speaker, amplifier, whatever, feedback that you provide, especially in the measurement, thank you, babe, in the measurement area.
Thanks.
See,
You're welcome, Mike. There you go. There's your sponsorship ad. Starbucks.
But now they've got some feedback as to how we physically can make this better. Right. I saw actually somebody posted, I think in the comments, that Emotiva added a backlit remote. And they were like, yeah, Youth Man, they added the backlit remote because of you. Well, it wasn't because of me. That was just something that I had seen.
It was because of you. Oh, baby. Drink out of that straw.
I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, I would do the same thing. I mean, I wish it would have, you know, this is great. I wish it had, you know, these three things. And then like, what is his name over at Valencia? He's like, hey, that's a great, saw your video. That was a great idea about having presets. Yeah. You know,
I really like Valencia, but in every video I tell them, all right, guys, you're screwing up by putting the lighting flying straight up at my daggum projection screen.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, put a shield over it, angle it down. I don't mind saying that because it's like, that's not a good feature. I mean, it's cool that you got the lights. It's cool that you can turn them on and off, but how about like angle them somewhere that doesn't interfere with, you know, our TV,
or maybe take away the ones under the recliner and just have it in the cup holder area.
I don't know.
Right.
Do something.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Which ones are y'all talking about? Like, are they at the bottom underneath the recliner?
Yeah, at the very bottom. So when you raise the footrest up,
you got lights shining on your.
Literally, when it gets about right there, man, you got this beam of light that just nails your screen, projector, anything up front, man. It's just like a blue wash or whatever color you've selected. And that's with all of them, man. I've reviewed probably 5 different models, and they all have the same exact LED structure and style. So I think it's one of those things that we've got to be honest with it. You know, if there's something that's not quite right, because the last thing I want to do is say, hey guys, I really like this product. I think it's great. I never try to tell somebody to go out and buy it. You have to base what your needs are, your budget is, and those features, and see if it fits well with what you want.
Yeah.
But then if you go out and buy it, and I said, man, these things are great, but I didn't tell you about this one part that really sucks.
Yeah.
You know, then it comes back on me and it comes back on you guys. And so I think we truly value that. So
I also think, what is it, 2023 now? Like I think now, especially with everything going on in the internet and all this, that, the other, we can't just be like, hey, this sounds like ass, but then it measures perfectly fine. Like it measures like it would sound great.
Right.
Or it measures like ass, and then we say it sounds great. Like it's proof. 2023 is the year of proof. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
So what if it
so for all of you out there, if you want to
it.
prove me wrong, you got to come with proof. None of this, oh, he said, they said, oh, they do this for a living. Guess what? A lot of people that do things for a living do it half-ass because it's their job. Secondly, you think you've been actually good at something because you've been doing it for a long time? Not necessarily true. So there's that as well. So yeah, 2023 is the year of proof. You want to prove
Chana, tell us how you really feel, man.
Chana D, tell him.
Yeah, you guys don't want to know. You don't want to know. But
That's funny, man.
hold on a second. There was so this guy asking about Thomas. Okay, so Thomas, so Thomas has these paradigms on the wall, on his wall. Okay, let me show you guys. Where is the share screen? And so Focal paradigm. Okay, so he's got these Millennia LP2s. He's got 3 of them, right? So that's what he had before. He's asking about the Focal. So look, if you want to, I've seen this. I haven't heard it because I saw it at CEDIA when they first like announced it and put it out, but I didn't get to hear it. I mean, at what, 500 each, 549 each. It's not bad price wise. And I would recommend, if you're gonna stick with those, go with these for your high channels, right? Because it's got a little mounting thing. But honestly, if you want to, yeah, if you want to make the move to like Focal, I don't know why they're showing a car here, but if you want to make the move, if you want to make the move to Focal, Focal has a bunch of different options. I like the Focal Aria line, and that's the one that has the Focal dome flax, or the flax material or whatever. So it's really up to you. I can't say whether the paradigm is better sounding than the Focal. I know the Focal costs more. I've never heard the paradigm. That's why I say, like, I would, before you make any purchase decisions, go
listen if you can.
Go listen to, yeah. Yeah. So that's what I would say, Thomas. I can't say like if one's better than the other because I haven't heard the other one.
That paradigm, I don't know if you caught it, but it said the frequency range is 120 and up.
What's up, Elon?
Ooh, so it doesn't get low. Either one of those two that you were just showing. Yeah, I just saw
you're
that.
Right. It does. 120.
So that may be something to pay attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. You got look at the numbers for the Focal, those on walls you were looking at, and see. And if you want to go in wall, the Focal 300 series is phenomenal. And yeah, you should check.
And the 1000 series are not.
1000 series expensive. Yeah,
they're not at all worth it.
No,
they're not at all worth it.
Not at all worth it. Okay.
At all. Good to know. Revel or Kef, those are easy. Monoprice ones are good too. For in wall.
Hey, you said you like those.
Hey,
I'd love for you to get some per listens. I'd be curious to see what those would be.
When I get back up in testing, maybe
that'd be really cool.
you know, honestly, I think people are, some of these companies are a little gun shy. You know, Elon Osborne is here. What's up, Elon?
What's up, Elon?
When we were at Nakamichi, I was like, hey, I got a file. Can we play this? Because it was a 916 call out. Like, this is the biggest thing for sound bars, right? Is it successfully reproducing a sound that's supposed to be like right up here?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. He's like, I don't know. He started making jokes. He's like, what kind of videos are these? So we thought it was pretty funny, but yeah, no dice. So if a company, if I was a speaker company and I was making some really high-end speakers, I knew the way they measured, I'd be like, man, we cannot let Aaron get a hold of these things.
If you knew they measured that.
If I knew they measured that,
don't let them.
Don't let them.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you had some speakers that you knew measured extremely well, be like, I'm getting them to Aaron.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff with JTR, he loves objective measurements. Like, he wants you to measure them, Yeah. And I think the same thing ProListen would be all for it. They're like, look, dude, we know how these things measure. We designed these, we built these. These guys really know their stuff. So I don't think they would have, any problem doing that. So that'd be awesome.
I don't think they would either. Yeah, Jeff and Dan at ProListen have been great to talk to. So I don't think they would have an issue.
No, they're like, they want you. Like, that's actually, they want you to measure them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no, totally.
that's a good thing.
Right.
Not everybody's that confident.
No.
Yeah, that is true.
Joe, we got a super chat from Joey G's audio channel. Thank you so much for the super chat. And he says, Chana, is it too late to give us music/sound effects track in a 744 file, or wait for the Blu-ray to be released? Joe says you can do anything. Oh, Joe is definitely right.
Well,
I can do anything. However, the disc is already done. Disc is already done. We are finalizing the artwork for the Blu-ray case and getting it all to the replicator. I can't believe it's almost.
Yeah,
it's almost
happening.
It's almost here.
But we did this right before the show. We are pretty much finishing up setting up the Discord group. So for anybody who purchased, we have a group specifically for people to go in there, talk about their different ways of calibrating, asking questions about how to use it. So there might be some people who are advanced, and they can, we can all go in there and share. And if you're at a different level, there's a place for you in the Discord group. But also there's a section there for demos. So maybe it could be a place, Chana, where we can throw in some demos that maybe stuff like not pink noise.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I already have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. I'm running on fumes. This today was like a whole bunch of emails and phone calls. So if I can make some more demos, they'll probably go there first. And then
might be a reason, maybe just another reason why, if you're on the fence about whether you should get it, we have this whole community based on this toolkit. So we'll see.
There it is.
I wanted to share something. Oh, what do we got here? I wanted to share something about the Dirac art, right? Because Michael, you had Matt from Storm Audio on your podcast, and so I watched it. I thought that was interesting to hear him, talk about it. I kind of caught it in the middle of it, so I didn't watch the beginning. But I actually came across this one forum that I guess is like a Swedish forum, right? So I had to use Google Translate.
Oh, funny, right?
So I'm not sure how good it, how well it translated. Maybe they're all saying nice things and it doesn't, translated incorrectly. But it's kind of funny. So they talk about here, so Dirac Live Art, this time from Youthman, so they have your link. And so I think that accountability is important, right? I don't like forums. I typically just don't like forums because I feel like it's too slow to respond. And sometimes you miss out on like certain context, like you might be joking and the guy takes it seriously. And like if you have an argument, right, it takes forever. It takes a whole day because you say something, gotta wait 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and then this person responds like, what? Oh, okay. Right. All right. So it takes forever. You know what I mean?
Just picture Joe getting all fired up. What do you say?
Trying to have a simple argument here.
Right.
And there's no accountability. I don't know who this person is. I don't know who Neiman is. I don't know who this person. Right. And so he has this whole thing. Make it bigger. The first comment, this guy, Arcspin, says, so Arcspin, he says, it's been a long time since I saw the husband of an ill-prepared person. That's probably not a good translation. I mean, Joe has access to Dirac Live Art for a long time. He's even had the staff from Dirac over to show him around so everything is done correctly. Yet this disjointed hodgepodge of disjointed information and inaccuracies. I'm disappointed in YouTubers that they feel whatever. So if this is correct, the translation is correct. He's basically saying disjointed. I can understand maybe it's the way I talk, right? Because I'm trying to simplify a lot of times. If I just wanted to say it how I'm thinking about it, I think a lot of people would be like, what is this dude even talking about? So I'm trying to, as I'm saying it, I'm doing a conversion in my head. I'm doing a translation in my mind of, into something simple that as many people as I can possibly think of can understand what I'm saying. So anyway, maybe that's why it seems like that, and I can get better at that. Right? I need to get better at that. But as far as misinformation and inaccuracies, unless this guy knows better, what does he know? Does he have
pretty vague? Like he didn't really say what was disjointed or what was inaccurate.
Maybe it's the way I talk. I get it. Okay, that's fine. But
I mean, you're a hater, dude. I mean, you're hating on Nakamichi. You're hating on art, on Dirac.
But I guess my question is, I mean, I think I really know about this thing. If I've been messing with it for a past year, I have an idea.
Aaron wrote
it. Aaron wrote in Swedish or whatever.
He is Nimmin.
Where is he?
Ninmin. Nin.
I'll get back to this one because this one does mention Aaron. So he says, disjointed, getting a bit of a salesman vibe from him. Well, number one, in order to be a salesman, you have to earn a commission. I make zero. I'd be the dumbest salesman. So I make no commission off of them. So that's what are you talking about, right? And even if I have products that I do get affiliate from, it still doesn't matter. So I don't know what that guy's talking about. He can read and recite text and take measurements and recite them. The technical know-how have been doubtful. Usually call this a diploma engineer. Okay. All right. So I'm actually the opposite, right? I don't read the documentation. I try to figure it out first, right? I try to use it and then come up with ideas before, I'm not the one reading their white paper, right? I've seen videos where other people read the white paper about how it works, this and that, and then they talk about, that's really reciting the text, right? That really is just going based off what they're saying. That's not, to me, that's not the same as this is my impression, right? That's different. So and then he goes off to say, there are many people out here who would rather see their cut their teeth in Dirac art. Someone from Aaron's Audio Corner. So that's why I wanted to bring you up, Aaron. So they
did write all that, by the way. Ike was right.
You could give a more in-depth analysis with their technical knowledge.
I don't think so, but okay.
So we're talking about spatial audio, right? We're talking about.
Well, I don't know anything about spatial audio.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm glad they didn't send it to me, because when I'm looking at, you were showing the screenshots, I'm thinking, man, how would you even know how to use that? It definitely doesn't seem super user friendly.
So he was disappointed that I got this. Anyway, the reason I'm doing this is just because I want people to understand when you post something on these forums, I can read it, right? I can read it. I'm a normal human being too, right? But guess what? There's a back and forth, right? So you can say anything you want about me, but I can also respond. This is fair game here.
I know, Joe was like, we should not do a forum. Facebook groups are kind of like, wah. Let's do Discord. And he sent me this AVS forum link, and I went over there and I was totally reminded. They're like, oh, this is from Techno Dad. It was about our calibration toolkit. He's like, this is from Techno Dad. It's not even in 4K HDR. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, cool. You make one. I'll wait.
Yeah, that gets pretty brutal in the AVS forum, man.
But the best is the guys that
toxic.
I will never give any of my money to Techno Douche. So
you like that one.
I like that one, and I think I'm going to respond at some point, but I don't know.
Anyway,
create a new user account called that.
Techno Douche. Hey,
and then
what's
respond
up, man?
to him. Say, what's up, dude?
I saw you at me in here. Saw you tag me.
That's awesome.
Let me just finish up with this real quick, just so you can get this off the screen. Okay, so this guy, who's this? Who are you? Sir Mix-a-Lot. Okay, Sir Mix-a-Lot.
That's
the other guy, Neiman. All right. Sir Mix-a-Lot says it's been going on for a long time now. Joe and Tell sells just the things he likes or makes money from, so it's so obvious. There's nothing quite like Odyssey. I don't even like Odyssey. Preferably when he measures it for you, of course. I think the whole league has become old and stale. Okay, the same brands, Okay, Joe likes to apologize that he hasn't heard the exact product, but of course he's heard something similar. It's rarely good like the products he advocates. Okay. And so this is it. He says when he explains that the guys from Dirac don't want to listen to his ideas as his magic beans is so incredibly good, and he loses interest in Dirac, then all trust in the man disappears. Okay, so if this translation is somewhat okay, I can just say this. I mentioned, and I didn't have to mention it, right? That I have my own things that I'm working on, right? That some people might say, oh, that's maybe a competing product in some ways, right? Even this calibration toolkit, some people might consider that a competing product, right? But I didn't have to say that, right? I didn't have to say, hey, somebody might think that I'm salty about it because of this. And maybe there is a part of that. I'm a human being, right? But I didn't have to tell anybody that. I could have just kept it to myself, right? So then, I don't know. I guess to me, that was more honest to talk about that, about ways that you could possibly be skewed. But in the end, that's only a small bit, right? So I actually like the guys at Dirac. I respect those guys a lot. So these guys are confused. Am I selling Dirac? right? Am I not selling it? What is the deal? Like, make up your mind. Am I pushing for it? And the funny thing is, it's just things are complicated. I can respect the guys at Dirac. I can respect what they do. I can be amazed at how well it works, and I can still not really like it that much. All those things can be true.
Yeah, you can appreciate something, but it may not.
I think what the issue is, like, it's with all these things, nothing is black and white.
No.
There's always like nuance to a lot of these discussions, and you know, you can like this a little bit and like that, like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you know.
That's what it is. I think that's
why not
the message is. It's not just like it's great. It's not just that. Some things are great, some things are not. Some things I like, some things I don't like. That's just how it goes. It's real life.
Yeah. There's a Pioneer 1995 had a question. Also gave us a super chat earlier. There's supposed to be a message without.
Oh yeah.
Is Mac good to use with REW and Dirac?
Sure.
I've used them.
They work. They're almost easier to set up, right? I haven't even set up REW with mine, with my MacBook, but my understanding is you don't have to download the drivers. It just kind of works, right?
Yeah, it works like right. I just plug in the microphone, put in the file. What is it called?
The main difference would be when you're trying to use the HDMI out.
Okay.
Because on the Mac, you just plug in the HDMI, and just you can choose it, and it accesses 7.1 channels.
Yeah,
right? 8 channels. On the PC, you have to use like ASIO drivers, so you have to download something else to make that work, and it's like
yeah.
Jed Presley just said that ASIO works better with the Mac. Yeah.
We got a pro here.
I need to get it set up on mine.
Yeah.
What else we got here?
Mark, thank you for the super chat. Odyssey Multi EQX development slow. Jeff Clark left. Is that a
I don't know where's that information from, because
he doesn't know. Heavy Beats asks, Aaron, Macintosh looks sweet.
Yeah, still wrapped in the plastic before they can say it.
It's hermetically
Go
sealed.
ahead. It is. I haven't
Just like
taken
your
them out
couch,
because
right?
I'm moving.
Just like your couch, still wrapped in
It's
plastic.
just like, just like my Russian nesting dolls. They're all each individually sealed as well.
The Barushka
Makes them
dolls.
harder to put together. Yeah. Macintosh, and then another Macintosh, and an audio precision.
And I see all the shiny plastic.
You see all the shiny plastic.
All right.
So here's the deal. I'm moving, right? But there's not enough room in the living room where I'm staying at for the huge boxes these came in. So I had to take these out of the boxes and put the boxes out in the garage, and then I'm packing them all up this weekend and moving them. Yeah.
Well, congrats.
All right, congrats, dude.
That's
Congrats.
exciting.
I know you were asking about television recommendations. I was like, I know a little bit about those things.
You know a little bit, yeah. I didn't know. I was like, who do I know that I could ask? And I was just like, I don't know.
You should call FOMO.
FOMO.
Yeah, that guy probably knows.
When you said $1,000 and all that, I went to the Twitter chat that I have with FOMO, Brandon, Be the Installer, Classy Tech, and Tech with KG. I'm like, hey, my buddy needs what can he get big for $1,000? And they recommended a Hisense, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you want a good quality TV, I'd say try to get the cheapest OLED you can at 65 inch, and like that one I showed you.
See,
it's in my shopping cart.
It's okay to ask Shauna if you're willing to spend money.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking for like a budget option,
don't ask me.
Don't ask.
Well, I'll be on the opposite end of that. I have a Hisense 85 inch. I love it. It's not the most amazing TV in the world, but for a non-video file dude like myself that's watching Survivor, with my daughter, and
well, let's also be real. With Mike, one eye's looking at the screen, the other one's over there. So
I knew it was coming.
We have to put it into context, right?
That's,
We're talking about context earlier.
That's okay, man. That's all good.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that it again?
I'm very surprised, honestly, at like how well the blacks are on it. Again, I'm not putting it next to an OLED.
Which one is it that you have? The Hisense what?
U7H.
Yeah. So the newer version is the U8G, which is the one that. But apparently the 75 inch is like a unicorn. You can't find them anywhere because.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Classy said you need to do two things, and then it looks great. Like you turn off Dolby Vision, and then you have your Apple TV do Dolby Vision on the Apple TV and then use that as opposed to the OS. So I was just like, dude, this is too much jumping through hoops. I'll tell Aaron to just go get an LG B2 and call it a day.
Yeah, that's pretty simple.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, go small. I mean, go small.
Yeah. Go with the
Well, I mean, I might as well.
I was about to say, go with what you're used to. Go small.
I tried to take it before you got there. I knew where it was heading as soon as you started. Man. I was like, I'm gonna steal your thunder. I'm not gonna let you.
Sorry, man. Sorry, buddy.
All right.
Yeah.
I need a flashlight, binoculars to go pee.
Here's some other comments. Hey Joe, I have never seen you impressed by anything. That's why I love you, brother.
He's never seen me impressed with it.
Yeah,
like you don't get super excited about stuff like.
I don't know, man. The mono price, the B6s. You were really impressed with the bass on those. I remember you like being really excited about that, even before you review.
They have to understand my bias, right?
Right.
So if it's inexpensive and really like a very good bang for your buck, like high value and inexpensive, those are the types of things that get me excited because I feel like other people can afford it, right? Like if it's really expensive and really good, I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I know
there's a few of you that can.
Not everybody can afford that. You know, it's like almost discouraging at a point. You know,
a few people.
Like now I'm telling you how great it is, but you can't buy this. So
that's what Aaron.
Oh, like that Bang & Olufsen soundbar.
That's like, dude, I don't own it.
A few $1,000s.
Doesn't matter if you own it. We don't own this stuff either.
Well, it's like the Focal Stellias, right? Look, they're $3,000 headphones. Right. Like, they're good, but what? It's not that exciting. They should be good.
Right.
They're $3,000.
They kind of expect it.
Show me some $60 ones that are really good, and then I'll be really impressed.
All right, here you go. $35. These are nice. They're not amazing, but they're nice. $35.
That's just me, though, right?
Yeah,
I'm impressed with that sort of stuff. But yeah. I try not to be like, you know.
I know when Michael is impressed. He's going to be like, you guys, it was phenomenal. that's it. And it's big old smile. Like, oh, you really like this.
Thumbnail's going to be him going.
Tristan, he always tells like he can always tell when I'm excited about something because of how much I smile.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, guys,
big old smile.
You're really pretty cool. I like this a lot. But if I'm like, guys, this stuff is it's all in the smile, man.
I mean, I think I disappointed Raymond, the CEO of Nakamichi, because I was kind of just like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Cool.
It's pretty good. I'm like, I need 2 files to be played, and I will tell you if it's really good or not. Then he wouldn't play them. So I'm like, oh, okay. That's it. But yeah. I think the one thing I really got excited about were those 2 subwoofers as opposed to the single. I think that was one. People could really tell I was hyped up on that. And it was even better with Joe's Magic Beans.
Oh, don't be a salesman, man.
Oh,
selling.
But here's the thing. We got a new range. So I actually had to move my speakers so that we can get the old range out and the new range in. I had to move a surround speaker. I had to move my front left main. I'm like, oh crap, is this exactly how I had it? So that means I guess I'm gonna go upstairs at some point this week and manually calibrate that, since now the Magic Beans is off, right? I moved 2 speakers. I have no idea exactly if they're in the right spot. So
all right. I'm
gonna use the spatial audio calibration toolkit.
Yeah, let's see what you can do. Let's see how close you get. Matt says, what I don't understand is how you can talk at the same time while you're sporting such a huge smile. I do wonder that. How do you do that?
Hi guys, it's phenomenal. It's the best thing ever. Woo!
It's hard.
I can.
Well, when you don't smile a lot, I mean, I guess it would be hard.
Oh my God. So. Listen, why don't y'all go talk about finances somewhere else? Right.
All
right,
man.
This one keeps being asked. I don't know if you guys.
Okay. All right, which one?
What's that?
This one.
There it is. Is the Monolith Encore C6 a good upgrade with EQ over SVS's 5-inch center integrating with JBL ES80s? Is my fronts wanted a 3-way center, not MTM, but limited to 8 inches tall and entertainment center.
No.
Okay.
That height on those three-way centers is really the.
So that's an Aaron question.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking. I think I've reviewed both of those, so I can go and try to refresh my brain a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we didn't read
Uh-oh.
somebody's super
Header,
chat. Who
yeah,
did we
let's
miss
back
here?
up. Where did we miss you, buddy? We didn't mean to intentionally. Thanks for letting us know. Header.
I started. I think. In start. That's the only one in start that we haven't talked about.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So we've got it.
Okay,
Up there.
yeah. We got you.
We just hadn't got to it. Sorry about that.
We'll get to it in a second.
Yep.
What were you gonna say?
I'm just looking at the data only. I'm going to say monoprice C6 with EQ. It looks like it might be a better option here. Yeah. That's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. Oh, although I keep going. That changes.
Is it because the waveguide is so big on that thing? Does that help?
I mean, it does help to some degree. So actually, the SVS has a wider dispersion pattern. So that might be, yeah. Oh, that's a tough one, man. Can you order? Here's the easy one. Can you order both and try them, and send the one back that you don't want?
So I'm assuming that he's gonna use EQ to kind of get him to sound more like his JBL ES80s, which I don't know.
Yeah,
specifically.
it's my main issue is that the SVS has it looks like the enclosure is probably too small, and there's some kind of really big dip right around 200 hertz, right? And the monoprice is more it's not linear, but it's more linear. Both would take well to EQ, but man, I don't know about EQing up a dip. That's where I'm like, ooh.
Remember, I'm saying I think he's talking about the old center from SVS, not the prime center.
Not the prime set. Oh well, then I don't know.
Ooh, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that then, because I'm looking at the prime center.
SCS. Okay, yeah, I don't know what the SCS is.
Well, I mean, there's the SVS Prime and there's the SVS Ultra Center channel.
Yeah, but what is the SCS? Is that like a really old center?
What?
SCS.
Yes, he said
it's right there over SVS SCS 5-inch center.
Yeah, he won't. I don't think he'll have the answer to that because they might have.
Okay. Hey, here it is. Way back in the day. Let me share this.
Yeah, he's going to need to look at some spin data probably to tell you.
Yeah. So he
at least what the directivity is looking like.
He's referencing the old versus the SVS.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So SCS 01. We can take an educated guess.
There you go.
The estimated SCS.
Let me pull that up here.
So this is.
Once you're ready, Michael, let me know.
I'm ready. Yep. I'm good.
There it is.
Oh yeah, you see that?
I don't think he'll like that right there. Just by
looking at
using my eyes.
That's interesting. Yeah. I didn't even know they had them. That man.
Oh, that was written in 2012, 10 years ago.
Look at that weight. No, I know what Aaron thinks about those tweeters.
Look at that rating, man.
No wave guide.
But that rating, though, look, the ratings are up there, man.
Of course,
it's written. I mean,
are we surprised?
That's a review. It's
gotta be.
That's popping right there, man. 1 inch.
I'm gonna have to guess.
Black
I don't think that will work out.
I would prefer to go with the known quantity, and that would be the mono price here. Hold on, HT Labs, the very bottom. They got a measure section.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Okay,
which their measurements are probably crap, but
okay,
here we go.
Let's see what it says.
Oh,
Aaron, give us the lowdown. Oh, why did it just? Oh, the ad up there pushed it down.
Wow, look at is that 5 dB increments? I'm sure it is, right?
Yeah, it looks man, you cannot even see this.
Yeah,
probably 100 there. That's 50, 60, 70,
so
80, 90.
Look at what is that around 8K? You're plus 5 dB.
Oh, right here.
Slim says he thinks the Prime Center is better than the SCS one because it's a true three-way.
If they got anything else down here? No.
There's another.
How is that a true three-way? It looks like
he says the Prime Center,
the newer one, the Prime Center.
Yes, the Prime Center. Yes. Okay. Yeah, but if you're talking about comparing that older design, I think I'd probably just go with the mono price. because both of them are two-way designs. So they're going to have a huge hole in the response off axis, I'm sure, because they're MTM. So.
Nice.
Cool.
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, he's got upgrade-itis, he says.
Right.
He has the old SCS one. So,
Ah.
hey, go just buy that shit. Do it.
Do
Buy
it,
it
man.
all.
Treat yourself.
Everything.
There, go for it. Upgrade it. All right,
Okay.
Hedrick. I can't test speakers before buying them, and my opinions are SBS Prime Tower and Klipsch 6000 F2, 90% movies, games, 10% music. Any recommendation? Thanks. Oh, what do you guys think? I've never had any Prime Towers.
Yeah, I haven't reviewed the Primes, and I've reviewed the larger Klipsch. It was the 8060 FA. So that's the one with the built-in Atmos, but it's basically the 8000 just with Atmos built in. So it's going to sound the same. So the 6000, it's going to have a little bit less output than the 8000. But I really like that series. I've actually got the new, the whole system from the version 2, which is 3 years newer. Because I guess I reviewed the original in about 3 years. Yeah.
I would say this. I haven't had the Prime Towers. I've had the Prime Pinnacles. Those things were short and stout. Like those things were little guys, but they put out a ton of sound. Here's one thing to think about. If you go SVS, they are going to be harder to drive than the Klipsch. Right. So if you have an external power amp, I'd say you could probably be fine with either. But I would recommend a power amp for your front stage if you're using any SVS.
They definitely have.
I don't know. I don't think that it's super hard to drive. Actually,
I would like it, but
I know they take more power because I had them in my living room back when I had the Ultras and I had the RF7 version 3s, and I had to turn up my AVR. It was just a 2-channel AVR with it even had an amplifier on it, 200 watt, but I had to turn it up quite a bit more to get the same volume every time.
Sean and I always disagree when it comes to that. Like, I'm like, I don't know that they're hard to drive.
Because he's wrong.
I run them on some pretty like Class D, like tiny little Class D amps, and they played more than loud enough. The treble's still hot for me on the SVS even. Like I want to bring down the treble on that, but most of the Klipsch stuff,
I think you like some Paradigm, Joe. Huh? Have you listened to any Paradigm speakers?
No.
I think you'd like those.
I wouldn't like them.
I think you would. I don't care for them, but I think you would.
Why, the treble's not hot on them?
Yeah, they're definitely.
Are you setting me up? Are they
no, I'm dead serious.
Are you setting me up?
No, seriously. There's a lot of guys that like Paradigm.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're just definitely more of a. I would consider them more slightly laid back than my taste. Okay. Like I like a more forward sounding speaker.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I say I've measured the 6000 F2s. I'm looking back through my measurements. I'm trying to remember what I said about them. I would say that 6000 F2s are probably okay. Put them somewhat close to wall, like probably about 2 feet from the wall. And then point them like somewhat on axis, play around with the aiming of them a little bit. But actually, like looking back through my measurements, they're pretty linear. There's a dip, like a 3 dB dip around like 200 hertz or so, which implies to me that they were designed to be placed somewhat near a wall to get that extra boundary reinforcement. So I would say give it a shot, man. Especially like when we're talking about stuff like this too, the main thing to keep in mind is a lot of retailers have a good return policy, right? Like even if you have to pay return shipping or something like that, and $50, like it's worth to try it at home and see what you think.
Return that shit. And then if you buy directly from, I don't know if you're in the United States, because
that's a good point.
That may make a difference.
Different, what is it? Like monetary symbol thing. Yes. Well, I don't know where you're from. CLP. I don't know where that is.
I love it when Reverend Slim says the SVS aren't that hard to drive. My Prime Towers didn't sound that bad running off my Denon 4500. So,
but they have more breathing room with the amp. Yeah.
I always like it when somebody says, "Man, you don't have to," but it doesn't sound that bad. It's like saying, this drink ain't that bad. You should buy one. I don't want a drink that's that bad. I want a drink that tastes awesome. Yeah. I'm just messing with you, Reverend.
Hey, look at Tim.
Biased opinion.
I like the non-echo chamber of these guys. An echo chamber of everyone agreeing and talking only one route to the end is boring. saying this again.
Yeah,
Thanks, Tim.
we disagree. We
We at least share. I mean, we
like
share what
Turtle
we
too.
really believe. You know,
I disagree with
that's
Aaron's face.
Totally okay.
I disagree with your. Got me, dude.
You got nothing. Huh?
You got nothing, man. You got me. It's like telling somebody shut up. I think, what comeback are you gonna have? Like, oh, you
Right.
shut up. No, man, you've already lost.
Oh, okay. I'll shut up.
I'll do that then.
Fine.
I don't like you.
Except for Best Buy. I worked as a cashier there for a few years in my 20s and often heard people screaming at the customer service desk because of their horrible return policy. It's like 2 weeks.
Dude, when we
yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
when we
for
added,
sure.
I worked there for a while. When we added the restocking fee, people lost their stuff.
I bet it.
Like straight up. I mean, when they found out they'd bring something back, we're like, yeah, it's gonna cost you like, I don't know what it was, 15%. They're like, what? Man, they would just go off.
Well, what's funny is reviewing these TVs, we talk we all talk, and like I remember one of the guys was like, man, I'm at my max on returning a TV to Best Buy for the month. So
It's funny.
because they all know.
Yeah.
This one person just buys a TV, returns it in 2 weeks, buys another one.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
I think it's funny that Elon. I'm gonna come back up to this. Like Elon said, for a few years in his 20s. I thought the dude was like 23. So what is he saying? He's not 20. He looks young. All right.
Actually, you know what's surprising is, I guess he's tall. He didn't.
Oh yeah, he's tall.
In the videos, he doesn't look like.
It's always like his like face or like this. But yeah,
you
dude.
can't tell.
One of the first things
That was the
Joe
best
said to me
part.
when I met him was Joe was like, "You're not tall as I thought you'd be." I was like, "What? Okay. Well, you're
Yeah, I thought
ugly.
you were gonna be
So
like-
I hate your face. I'm leaving."
No, it's from that one speaker. Remember, I told you had a picture with
Oh,
this,
yeah,
this
the
it was,
original.
like, down here.
Yeah, because it's an
Like,
itty bitty.
damn,
It's a short tower speaker. Yeah. I mean,
Turns out it's a little
Elon
baby tower.
turned 40 last August.
what?
Oh wow!
Who did?
Elon.
Elon?
He
So
just
Elon's
popped
only
in. There it is.
Elon's a month older than
Dang.
I am. Okay.
Yeah.
Elon's on that secret juice, man. You're gonna have to share with us, dude.
I'm like,
The
I'm
part at
grandfather
CES
youth
was
man,
like,
man.
hey man, can you see somebody in the distance? See there's the logo in the distance? Because
That's
Oh,
right.
that's how you were using them.
He's like, no,
Look at
I don't
Ike,
see them.
Ike talking that mess. I don't know if you guys know, but Ike's like 8 foot
Like
tall.
seven,
giant
7'2" or something. He's nuts.
Yeah. He's like 55 feet tall. All right.
What do you guys think about audio control amps and processors?
Yeah, Chana.
Audio control.
I mean,
I mean, I tried to order an audio control. I even paid for it. No,
Here we go.
6 months later, I still got no audio control.
that's
Was
crazy.
that
Pretty bad for them.
XR6?
So there's your answer.
Yeah.
Don't know. I would love to have one of them in here, but I don't know. Maybe I'll try again. Maybe because I was at 95,000 subscribers. Now I'm at 120. Though, like, I mean, I paid, so I don't even know why that matters.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's ridiculous.
What was the old audio control thing for the subs before? The car
Epicenter?
audio? Epicenter.
Yeah, dude.
I had one of those.
Yeah, everybody had one of those, man. And there was something else too that I can't remember what it was, but there was two main things. I remember the Epicenter. Something was like was the Epicenter the bass thing, or was there a separate bass thing?
It was definitely the bass one, and I don't know what it did, but it did its thing. Like whatever it did.
Bass restorer, maybe? Does that sound right?
I don't remember,
I don't
but
know.
I
I'm
like
about to
that
go look.
Epicenter.
about
I'm
to-
sure it was just like adding in frequencies. It's
Probably.
probably like
boosting the lows or something.
or
ridiculously
just
high.
taking like an octave below whatever the frequency is, like just adding that in. Like here's extra
Yeah.
bass.
Yeah, it
Anyway.
says a patented bass maximizer.
There it is.
Oh, they had extra bass. They had super bass, a super bass button, or is it a module
Yeah.
that just added bass?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even
That thing
remember.
was-
Yeah, I remember it came with like a control. Like it's new. They've redesigned it, right? But I remember like there was an older version that everybody had too. So
Audio
audio control did have an RTA. Yes, it was a graphic RTA. Big old. It looked like about the size of this audio precision unit. Well, maybe not quite as big, but it was like a dot matrix little thing. You know, it was pretty.
Did
neat.
they have their own target curve too?
I don't think so. Like in car audio competition, like the idea in competing in RTA was to try to get that curve as flat as possible. Like even if it sounded like junk. So what a lot of people will do is they will only play like one side of speakers, right? And they'll have like preset EQ to try to flatten that out. because when you have like your left and your right stereo side, there's a lot more cross correlation, interference, things like that. So they would only play like one side, or they might only play like one mid and one tweeter, as opposed to like a three-way system or something, like to try to make that target easier to hit. Yeah, but then you got
one full range, just a full range. Let's go.
Yeah, it's got to be, and it's got to be flat across the board, which sounds terrible. I mean, it never sounds good, but that's for whatever reason, that's what they made into a competition. So
that's funny.
Yeah,
I like it.
Time. Oh, would there be any significant difference in soundstage performance when turning an SVS Prime bookshelf on its side? Yes, and it would be basically the same thing as what happens when you stand up, right? So if you're like on axis with the tweeter, and then you stand up or you scooch down below that tweeter level, you're going to wind up getting some kind of hole in the response, most likely, unless the design is pretty good. And I think that design has some issues in the crossover region. It may not be too bad, but just kind of recalling from memory. But not just with that particular speaker, like every speaker is going to do that. So the better the design is at the crossover, the less it's going to matter. But most speakers are going to have that problem with two-way, especially if it's like a 6.5-inch woofer and then maybe a 1-inch dome tweeter or something like that, because the crossover, the playable range between those two drivers isn't good enough to where you have good cohesion and good integration in the radiation pattern at the crossover. So you are definitely going to tell a difference as you go further and further above the speaker or below the speaker. And then when you take it and flip it on its side, everything that's radiated out into the room is very asymmetrical. So your sound, your reflections off the sidewalls and stuff aren't going to sound much like what you hear when you're sitting directly in front of the speaker. So that'll cause you some issues with like timbre, tonality, and stuff. So yeah,
don't do it, because
don't do it.
If you ever just exactly what you're saying, stand up and notice the sound difference. Usually it's a dip around the crossover region, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
So wherever the crossover point is, you'll notice a big dip when you go above the tweeter. So I'm assuming that you would, if you have to do it, put the tweeter on the outside. I'd probably put the tweeter on the outside. You know what I'm saying?
I see that in music studios a lot when they don't have, they just like.
That's okay. So Cali Audio has the LP6 V2, which is a two-way woofer tweeter, right? And they say don't put that on its side, right? But then they have the IN5 and IN8, which is a concentric, and they said you can't put that one on its side.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, not recommended.
Do you guys? Did we talk about this? What about taking center channel MTM and putting them upright?
Yeah, that works.
That
works.
So I'm actually reviewing an MTM 100 from Monolith. And it's meant to be, you stand them up, and it's an MTM with 2 passive radiators on the side. And
so you can't lay it flat because the radiator is on the cabinet, right? So you can't.
And it's rounded. Interesting. The cabinet's a little bit rounded. Interesting. I'm getting some awesome imaging from it. Is that to be expected, Aaron?
I don't even know which the speaker is.
Oh, let me bring it up.
It was
because I was like, Monolith.
But if it's like an MTM type design that's standing up, then yeah, it makes sense.
So I'm like, sound bad. What is happening with the sound?
Especially if the drivers are small.
So Juan continuing his thing. He said the thing is I want to place the bookshelf tweeter at the level with the center channel speaker.
Upside down would
That's
be
what I was about to say.
if
Can
your
you do
ear
that?
is. I would say if your ear is above
the tweeter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If normally when they're upright, your ears are no. Wait, how's it working?
Let's just put it this way, because the PSB Alpha P5s are upside down. It depends on how they're designed, but most of the time, the best response for a two-way is usually going to be between the tweeter and the woofer. Is that about right, Aaron? Usually,
I don't know that I would say best. In my experience, usually it's at the tweeter, but there's a lot of designs. If it's a waveguide, then it's between the two, typically, right? But if it's just a dome tweeter, then usually it's at the tweeter level, but it can vary.
Okay,
that's where measurements would come in handy. Or if the
how about this? At and below is usually the best. I haven't really seen one where above is the best.
Yeah, normally above probably isn't going to work out too well, especially because you have like the the diffraction from the baffle above the tweeter usually, and that's going to cause you issues too. So yeah,
So
flipping the speaker
at or
upside
below,
down is not a problem.
right?
Yeah.
So that's okay if your ear level is at or below where the tweeter is now, right? Now that if you place it upside down, right, you want to be here or above it. If it's high up here, then it's not good for it to be upside down.
Yeah. So that
Hopefully
particular
makes-
one,
I wish I had a
can go
speaker
look.
here. I guess I do.
All I have are the concentric ones near me.
Yeah, I know.
Not gonna help.
I'm trying to look.
Yeah.
So let me show you these MTM 100s here. So this is my actually my next review coming up.
Looks like Ton's in the house.
What's up, Ton?
JBL 520C center channel set up vertically for my side surround channels, and it's great.
All right,
Well, those are
Oh,
cool.
look at
these
these
things
things.
right here. Look at this.
Yeah, those are cool.
Oh,
Look
Is
at
it?
that.
Is there one on each side?
Boom. And the cabinet's curved a little bit. It's kind of
Excellent.
cool.
rounded
That
edges.
doesn't have. Does that have HDMI by any chance?
No,
I'm guessing
Wish it
not.
did.
Man, could you imagine if it did?
I do have
Oh.
it connected to my a living room system
Yeah.
right now. And so like what do you like looking at these, what do you expect, right? What's your initial impression just by looks? What would you
Small
guess?
drivers. What are those?
Yeah, they're
5
small
1/4 or
drivers. These are
4s?
small and these are I think 5 1/4. Passive.
Yeah.
So the 4-inch
So-
drivers, maybe.
So they're made
Yeah,
I think these
I'll-
are made for like what does it say? Desktop speakers, right?
Okay. Yeah. Does it sound like the soundstage is pretty wide? Would you say that?
Yeah,
fair?
this always makes me laugh. Look at I'm on Mono Price's website. Look at the ad that comes up.
That's yeah. That's funny.
That's
That's very targeted.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're made for a desk, and my first impression, just looking at them, right? Like I'm saying, you always have a first impression. Mine are like,
Oh,
whoa,
of course.
those are gonna have some bass, at your desk.
Mhm.
They just look like they're gonna be bassy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're okay.
That
They're okay.
picture is so weird. That's a speaker laptop.
Yeah.
Whose desk is actually like that?
So anyway, I was more surprised about the soundstage on this, and I don't know if this is because it's MTM.
I would,
Right.
if I had to guess, I would say that the soundstage, it would probably be pretty wide. It could be deep too, because those are 4-inch drivers, so they'll play higher before they start to beam. And
Okay.
depending on where their crossover is, they probably have good integration with the crossover. Probably, it's harder to mess that up when you're using smaller drivers like that.
So my impression was more that I was amazed at like the center image. Like, sometimes
block.
you get the center image like, dang, like that's solid right there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that sounds crazy.
Mhm.
And that's what it did. And I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. I was looking for bass, but
Right.
it surprised me with that aspect of it. And I wasn't sure if it was because the MTM design, I don't,
Well,
the treble's a little bit up, and I'm like, maybe it's that. I didn't know what it was that
Yeah,
was
it could
causing
be.
it.
It could be because of the MTM, because it's narrowing the radiation pattern. So if those are 4-inch drivers and then it's a
Mhm.
1-inch dome, let's just say it's a 1-inch dome tweeter. So if that's
Mhm.
4, let's just add 2. So I'm going to say, I don't know, what's 4 and 4? Let me back up here. So if I say that's a 4-inch mid-range, and I'm going from the top mid to the bottom mid, center to center.
Mhm.
So that's going to be 2 inches to the dome tweeter. Let's say the dome tweeter distance is another 2 inches, another 2 inches. So that's about 6 inches.
Mhm.
So if I just ballpark that at 6 inches, and you try to do the math real fast.
Okay.
So speed of sound 13. 6/2. Let's just say ballpark. Oh yeah, it's starting to beam at 1,000 hertz, right? So that means that that radiation pattern is getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter at even as low as 1,000 hertz. So that could explain why the image may sound more stable. It could. I'm not saying that's why, but that could be one potential reason for it.
All right.
Right. But I would expect maybe the soundstage might sound wide because it's again using narrow driver, or not narrow drivers, but smaller drivers. The radiation pattern won't narrow on a 4-inch until let's see what the math tells me. Closer around like maybe 1,500 to 2 kilohertz or so. Right. So that tweeter should have no problem mating to that.
Here's another question. These passive radiators, right, are controlled by the drivers here, right? So they move in accordance with those front drivers.
Right.
Is there anything happening there because they're on both sides?
Yeah.
How does that affect the pattern? You know, because they're firing this way. How does that affect things? I don't expect it to be what is the ones that you reviewed?
You're talking about cardioid, I think, right?
Yeah, it doesn't do
where
anything.
It cancels
like that,
out the side and the back sound. I know this shouldn't do it. If it does, it's by mistake. Somebody did it wrong. I wouldn't think that it would do that. I would expect that woofer just picks up and extends the omni pattern lower to some 50 hertz or something like that. Probably. I'm throwing out numbers.
Okay.
No, it wouldn't act like a cardioid design. It would a true cardio design would be tougher to do. Like that would have DSP for it, and yeah, it would not be that. It would not cost
have to be designed specifically there. Not placement wouldn't do it by itself.
Placement alone would not do it. No.
Okay. Because I see sometimes the passive radiators on the back.
Mm-hmm.
So that it doesn't. Would it matter where they place it, or
not
it doesn't
really
matter at all?
I mean, so it could if you're talking about like where the integration frequency is, like crossover frequency.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about bass, the distance is so large, even at 200 hertz, that unless that driver were like way somewhere else, you know what I mean? Like a foot behind those mids, I can't imagine that it's going to have any kind of discontinuity in the radiation. In other words, it should act as like a monopole source, a single source, unless they are very far separated.
It's just confusing to me because I would imagine those radiators go out when the other speakers go in.
Right. Yeah. It is weird.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because it's like a sealed enclosure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like a push-pull, essentially.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how that works.
Are those two woofers, 2 5 1/4 woofers on each speaker?
On either side. Yeah.
Yeah.
On
both
either
sides.
side. That's pretty cool, man. I'd like to play around with those myself sometime.
Yeah. Somebody asked if they're passive, and they are. They're passive. Anyway, interesting. Cool. Interesting sound. I think they're pretty cool. Anyway. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Can you use multi EQX? I never can say that right. To measure subs until you get the right distance delay, can you adjust sub distance in the software, remeasure, view curve, etc., or does the distance need to be uploaded first? That's a joke question.
I have to. Can you adjust the sub distance in the software, remeasure, view the curve? I think you can rely on multi-QX to just set the distance for you. I don't see a reason necessarily to do it beforehand, unless you're talking about multiple subs, and and let's say your AVR only has 1 sub out, or maybe it has 2, but you have 4 subs. You kind of want to make sure that those are aligned prior. So you want to align your subs to one another first, and then let this do its thing. You just want to make sure that your subwoofers are not fighting each other, right? Because if they're canceling each other out, then there's nothing that multi-QX can do to fix that. So I don't know if that answers the question. Can you? Yeah, you can do anything you want. You can adjust your distance in your sub. You can do all that, but typically you don't want to. You want as little delay from your subwoofer as possible, right? There's always going to be delay because of the DSP in a sub, most subs, and so you want to eliminate that as much as possible, right? Because what you're actually doing is you're adding delay to your main speakers to match the delay in your sub, right? So that's not good for gaming and things like that. Yeah, you know what? It's funny is let me show you guys another thing. You guys keep talking.
What did he say?
Listen, Chana, you mentioned HiSense earlier, and now I'm looking at HiSense ultra short throw projectors. This is a slippery slope, my friend.
L9G.
Yeah, you gotta.
L9G is nice, dude. Still my favorite.
L9G is probably expensive because the L5G
it is.
Go the BenQ V7050i if you're gonna go ultra short throw. That's my
Stop yourself now, Aaron. Stop yourself now.
V7050i.
What'd you say? Snuff myself.
Look, if you can't remember the model number, probably skip. The B758IJ24. That's what the model number is.
That's funny.
Yes, for multi-sub, properly account for DSP, delay, etc. Trying to make sure there's no massive null from phase misalignment with the mains.
For sub, multi-sub, probably DSP delay. I mean, it's gonna try to do that. So it's trying to time align, and it only has delay to match the phase, right? So it's not doing any phase rotations. It's just using delay to match them up. So I think it does a pretty good job of doing that. You know, it's just when you have multiple subs, like I'm saying, you have to do some more advanced stuff, basically. So you do have to use a mini DSP 2x4 HD, and you have to go in there and do some pre-calibration with your subs first, and then let Multi-QX do its thing, right? So the secret to Multi-QX is not that it does, multi-sub or anything like that. It's just that it's a filter bank. You can go in there and make it do whatever you want it to do. Yeah. So any curve that you want, you can just put in the filters, and it's a filter bank for all of your speakers. That's the amazing thing. The integration between subs, it's not its strong point.
Look. He's come back over here. Bro, should I just get a consultation? Need to make sure I'm optimized. Pay way too much money for all this.
Sure. Oh, wow. Sure. You can go to joeintel.com/booking.
Yeah.
I'll take care of you.
No, nothing has a question. I have a 5.1 setup right now on a receiver that doesn't do Atmos. Would I notice much of a sound improvement by upgrading my receiver but keeping my system at 5.1?
I haven't heard from Michael. Michael, you
Mike?
You got the new setup. I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What's up, bro?
So one thing that I would ask is, like, all right, 5.1's been around a long time. So if you've got an AVR that is definitely like let's say DTS master or
Dolby, hold on.
Dolby
he's
True
saying
HD.
Assuming same room correction and such, no real change.
Yeah. So keeping the same speakers, if you upgrade, like I heard a big difference when I went from DTS and Dolby. What was that one?
Dolby True HD and
was before that. Before we got to high, before we went to high definition. So if you've got a really old one, absolutely. Even if you kept the same 5 bed layer speakers, 1 subwoofer, absolutely. You keeping the same thing if you've got Odyssey or Dirac or whatever. I really, really like those new formats. Going from, let's say, for instance, a DTS to an Atmos. One thing I don't know is, and Chana, because you're mixing this stuff now, do you get any kind of object based in the base layer in a 5.1, or is that only
everything is different with Atmos? If the movie is released with an Atmos mix, and even if you don't have Atmos, you're going to have objects flying around as best as it can be.
Sure. Yeah.
So whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's up in the air. It's up in the air. So I think you might notice a difference. It depends on the content. And I know,
if you don't mind, let us know in the chat what the model number is. I'd just be curious
of the current receiver.
Correct. Yeah.
Reverend Slim says you might get an advantage of Atmos virtualization with only 5.1. I've tried that. It does a little bit. It's not bad. I don't hate it. Yeah, I tried it in this room before I set up the height speakers, and I feel like I'd rather keep it on than off.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it just adds a little bit of just a little aspect of height that I like. Yeah, I thought it was good.
I like Jayhawk's question. That's a good one too.
What's that?
7.3.6 versus 9.3.4. Pretty deep room, 2 rows, front row 15 feet from the front of room, limited to 13 channels though.
So he's talking about 9.3, meaning he has 3 subs. Because
Right.
Michael, I remember before you said,
Yeah.
you know, it's officially 0.1
It
because
is.
it's
But
just one
what
channel.
I reckon, what I say now is that is the configuration. That is not the actual channels, because you don't have 3 subwoofer channels. You
So
got a single.
is
So
that how we're
technically,
doing it now? We're doing
well, here's
configuration.
the thing.
I just
It
random
makes it.
status.
It totally makes it easier. I mean, trust me. I wish that we would call it that 7.3.6, but the proper is 7.1.6 with 3 subwoofers, which sounds stupid.
So
why
it
do
makes
you
it
have to say
easier.
that?
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
I just wasn't sure because I know it does look better on those on the titles and on the
Yeah.
headline, like
Yeah.
more numbers, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but you can look at that and know exactly without even asking him. He's got 7 bed layer. He's got 3 subwoofers. He's got 6 Atmos.
Yeah.
Or height channels. You know,
So
something.
is this is so Youth Man is making the standard right now.
No, I think no. I made a video on it saying that 7.3.6 is not technically right, and 9.3.4 is not technically right.
Yeah.
But I get it, and I know why we do it, and I know why we say it.
I mean, people were asking with our toolkit, he's like, can you make it for, can you make something go out of my butt kickers or my, whatever's plug, my 4 subwoofers? I'm like, unfortunately, there's only one LFE channel.
That's correct.
And so if I put it, it's just no matter what your AVR does with it, I can't access your second subwoofer by itself because it's all on the same thing.
Yeah. So to answer your question though, Jayhawk, my advice, number one, you've got a really deep room. Depends on kind of how far those 2 rows. Let's see, he's got 2 rows front, 15 from the front rooms. Okay. My preference, if you've got a really deep room, especially if you've got a pretty good amount of separation between the front and the rear row, is to have 6 Atmos speakers. If you had like a really wide room, I would recommend going with some front wides, and doing that 9 bed layer. But that's just me. But I've heard 9 bed layers in a room, phenomenal. The key is properly set up. If you do it properly set up, that would be better. You know what I mean?
Hey, so a quick question, Mike. Where did they place the front wide in between the front and the side surround? Was it like even? Was it like 50% distance? What was it?
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you.
The
only one that I can really think of that comes to mind is Tony's SOWK. So he has front LCR. He's got front wides. Then he's got a whole bunch of speakers. So, but as far as like angles, I couldn't even tell you where they put them.
Got it. Jayhawk, if you have 2 rows of seating, bro, I would go the 3 sets of height channels. I would go 736.
That'd be my vote.
Do front heights, and then in between your 2 rows, do in ceilings straight down, and then rear front heights on wall. I think that would probably be the better of the 2. Because there isn't a whole lot going on in those front wides. It's really when things are.
Aaron, I know you gotta take off.
Oh, Aaron, take it easy.
See y'all later. Have a good one.
You got a hot date.
Woo.
Maybe later.
Hot date with his face. Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
He's gonna. What did he mean by that? He's gonna want to pop back in here. He's like, watching the stream. He's gonna watch the stream later on to see what we said. We love you, Aaron.
Yeah, you're a good guy.
Support from you guys. Thank you for all the support.
Yeah, thank you for all these super chats that are coming right now. But yeah, that's my vote, Jayhawk. 736.
736. Okay.
Yeah. Really deep room.
What do you think, Joe?
I haven't tried 9 ear level speakers, so I can't say. My guess, just theory, right? My guess is that having the wides would give you like more accurate panning across the front, because from our calibration tests, right, we found that panned hard right is 45 degrees, and we put our left and right speakers at 30. So I think that having the wides actually kind of makes up for that difference.
Well, there's probably a big angle between, let's say, especially if you've got, like in my case, I've got my side surrounds, technically probably about 110 degrees. So they're slightly behind my listening position to the sides. And then you've got your front speakers, which are, what is that, 30 degrees whatever it is, 40 degrees. And so I don't know, do the math between that and the other. So that is a big area
big
to
gap,
try to cover.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not saying that wides won't benefit you, but like Chana said, I don't know how often they're utilized, but
like what Joe was saying was like when something's panning from like let's say cars passing by you this way,
right, front to back,
right,
yeah, makes sense.
front left, it'll hit your front wide, it'll hit your surround left, like everything on the left it'll hit, you know. But I would be like even kind of like making stuff and moving it around, like there's not a whole lot to like move around like right in front of you, like in something that would arc past through like 4 different speakers, like like for me.
So let's say that car passing by this way, right? I think let's say if it's on the panner, it's 45 degrees, right? And you're kind of, let's say you do it on you mix on headphones, you kind of expect it. Let's say it's going to take 1 second to move from here to here, right? All the way across the screen. Let's say you're making a movie and you want the car you don't see it, then it passes, from one side to the other. Left to right. Okay. And it's supposed to take 1 second to do that, right? There's like an angular thing that's happening, right? So it's you're expecting it to be 45 degrees, but they're in 30. So if the person's speakers are this close, then in 1 second, it just goes like, it moves a smaller distance, I guess.
Oh, right.
Angular distance in, how it sounds to you. It's only moving from one like small area to the other. How much it matters, I don't know. I don't know that it matters that much. But
Slim's chiming in and he's completely correct on this. The problem with wides is that they're only active with dynamic objects. So there's good because they're not technically in the bed track. The bed track is 7.1.2.
Okay.
So they are not in the bed track. So yeah, he's right. Only objects. So that's kind of like what I meant by something panning through. It would have to be only an object and it'd be going through like it's a very small distance. Like, so yeah, that's kind of that's kind of what I would say. Yeah. There's another super chat came in from Mohan here. Great show, guys. $13.99. Thank you so much. In a 5-2-4 setup, where exactly do I place the side surround speakers, at ear level or above? And should they be beside MLP or slightly behind?
Oh, Reverend Slim's in the house. We better give the right answer.
I would say this: if it's 5-2-4 and you're not adding surround backs, go slightly behind. If you're listening to Atmos and you have them like I do upstairs, the sound that's coming out of them that should be behind me is now to the sides of me. So if you want a more accurate representation of what's happening in the surround channels, I'd say put them slightly behind, like Michael has. What do you say, like 110?
Probably about 110. Yeah.
And
basically they're in between my front row and my rear row, so they're right in between there.
Okay. And I personally, I don't like the idea of an elevated surround sound stage. I like everything at ear level to be at ear level. Obviously, if you have 2 rows of seating, that's not possible.
That's what I was gonna say. If you got 2 rows, and especially if you got 7 speakers, you pretty much have to elevate that rear, at least the rear one, to be able to get access to both that front and rear seat, especially if that rear seat's on a riser like I've got in my theater room.
Yeah.
So so it's confusing because there are multiple reasons. Like Michael, you're talking about having elevated seats behind you. It needs to be able to pass over the head.
Yeah, you don't want to at the back of that seat. That would be pointless for the people in front.
Right. That's what Slim is saying. Seat backs that might
so that's one consideration, right? One consideration. But I think why it's confusing is because the old school 5.1, no Atmos, right? No height.
It used to be like way back in the back.
Right. So and like 2 feet
and elevated.
Yeah. Well, all right. So thinking about this, my theater is probably 15 years old. Is when I built it or set it up. My side surrounds are 2 to 3 feet. That's what our Dolby suggested back then because they wanted elevated a little bit.
Yeah.
Then when Atmos comes, it's like, okay, now you want to separate that bed layer from the height. And it's harder for me to do that just because if I lower those side surrounds, when somebody walks into my theater room, they're going to smack it right dead in the face. So I've got to kind of leave mine up there. So
Yeah, I guess it's just interesting that it's confusing. I guess it's confusing going from 5.1 because the recommendation was above, right, 2 feet above. I think similar location though. But when you go to Atmos,
back in the 5.1, they were almost like, think of like 45-degree angle behind you. Remember, because we almost put them like in the corners, looking towards the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you look at the original 5.1 before Dolby, before any of that, you would have the free 3 up front, and then the back ones were kind of like this, angled towards that main listening position.
Yeah.
And they may actually still have them. I'll tell you what, while y'all do that, I'll just look it up real quick.
Well, that's the 5.1. I think it's an ITU standard, ITU 5.1. It shows you the angles there.
Yeah.
Where they?
Yeah. So here's a 5 point. Okay. So it's saying 110 to 120, but see that again, that's the newer layout. I want to see like a really old.
Pretty old though. I think it's always been this 110 was the recommendation. I guess the difference, here's where it gets confusing. When you talk about Atmos, it's no longer 2 feet above, right? They want it about ear level, with some clearance for whatever is behind you, right? I think that's the recommendation. So that has changed. Also, it changes when you go from a 5.1 point whatever to a 7.1, because when you move to 7.1, now they allow it to be at 90 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sides, within the spec for it to be more to the sides, which I still don't love because you can really hear that sound.
Yeah, it's like
I still recommend it behind you, but you can, according to Dolby spec. But that's only when you have 7.1. If you have 5.1, it doesn't say that you should do that. So
this is like
pictures here.
Yes, but just look at the angle of those back speakers. That's kind of more what I was thinking of, like originally. They were way back in the kind of your corners of your room. They were angled at the main listening position. And even back in the day, we'd have them. They would even say, "Hey, put them up in the corners and angle them down," kind of thing. And
it looks like 135 right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's way past 110.
Yeah.
So that's like that was kind of what I was thinking back in the day. That's the way we would do it. But now Dolby's saying like 90 to 110 is a good range there.
He said we should invite Reverend. We've had him call in.
He called in.
He needs to be on the show, man. Be on the video, baby.
Yeah,
bring him on. Here, you have an invitation.
Billy P's got a couple of things. He's like, "Have you ever? Any of you had experience with Prime Pinnacle?" I haven't. I thought they were great. Price wise, space wise, great speakers.
Super slim.
Yeah, super slim, short. Put out a lot of sound. I did have Parasound amplifier. Pretty big one going to him, and they handle it no issues. He also has I have a 6700 with 6 Atmos set up for all 3 formats. If I went voice of God and center height, what happens during Atmos with the voice of God and center height? Nothing.
I'll let you answer that one. I'm looking up have you guys seen the turn off announcement just real quick?
No.
Okay, go ahead, continue.
So yeah, nothing. Unless you were to upmix in Oro 3D, whatever the content is, then it'll start using the voice of God in the center height. I have the 6700 in here, and I was contemplating putting a voice of God and 2, middle heights facing downward. But I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go with the center heights as opposed to not the center channel height, but two speakers in the center of the room on the ceiling, because anything Atmos is not going to use them. So there you go. That is my answer.
Okay, you guys see this? You guys didn't see this here?
No. What's going on?
Knobs new.
I put a link there to this thing. So AV Nirvana, Todd Anderson. I guess it's I don't know if it's a press release or what, but they're talking about Trinov. They're going to be at ISE, and they're teaming up with Crix, and I don't know what this is. Anyway, they're making a demo room with 18 seats and how many speakers? How many subs here?
Looks like 13.6.6. So
16 subs.
Yeah, that sounds like what they did at CEDIA this year.
So I guess they have some kind of new technology, and I don't know if it's kind of like what Dirac Art is doing.
Correct.
But I did put a link, so if you guys want to take a look at that, I don't know what they're not saying exactly what it does.
Yeah,
but you kind of have to read between the lines here. So if they have 16 subs hooked up, there's probably a reason for that. Where is it? I remember reading. Okay, here it says traditionally. So this is from somebody at Trinov, or one of the founders of Trinov. The traditionally low frequency reproduction is handled through a modal analysis where resonances are identified in the frequency domain. Through our extensive research and unique expertise in 3D acoustic fields, we propose something different. Our disruptive approach seeks to fully understand and control the behavior of the room in all its dimensions, time, frequency, and the 3 dimensions of space, so that resonances are removed almost entirely and without artifacts. The initial wavefront produced by the subwoofers propagates through the room unaltered and pure as if there were no walls. I just laughed here when it says in 3 dimensions of space. You know, it just makes it sound like real
fancy, high tech.
Yeah, woo. Controlling it throughout space.
Yeah, I think they have to compete with what Dirac is doing with ART. So I think that's kind of their answer to that, because they announced that. I got the email. I think the day that Dirac announced theirs, or like the day after. It was pretty quick. It was almost like, all right, you got yours.
Like
here's ours. You know.
No. So. When you had Matt on from Storm Audio talking about art, was there anything that you learned from that conversation that you didn't know prior?
Oh, sure.
Like, man,
I had no idea what art was, like zero. So going into that conversation, I had read some articles and stuff on it, but it was still really, really fresh in my mind. And it's still a new concept, but it's almost similar or akin to kind of like noise canceling headphones. You know, so noise canceling headphones take sound that's out here, and it's almost like the inverse of what's playing, and so it's able to cancel out that sound. And so they're using, that's like the easiest analogy I can provide. The software is measuring the room, and it's trying to figure out, okay, where are there some bad things happening? And so then they're going to send additional frequencies from, say, your front right speaker to help out another speaker. It's an interesting concept for sure.
Well, you were on when I explained it for the first time, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I was wondering. Yeah, I just looked at the video.
Yeah.
You were on the video when I was explaining, like, for the first time, like a first time I was able to.
Yeah, and I was like,
talk about
I don't know what that is, you know, because I didn't do any research at that time. I was like, it seemed kind of weird to me at first, but there's some people that are way smarter than me. And not talking about like guys at Storm or that are in that, but people external looking at it going, this is actually pretty intriguing. Like this actually could, you know, there may be some definite value here. So it's intriguing. I'd love to experience it and see what it sounds like myself. But
well, I hear you say that a lot. Actually, also you say, you know, there's a lot of people here that are smarter than me. I'm glad that these guys are smarter than me. But at a certain point, I think it's on you, Michael.
That
you're surrounded with all these smart people that you have to also.
Well, I
assume that you're absorbing it also, and at some point you're going to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just saying that it has to be that way. Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point of surrounding yourself with people who know more unless you're also absorbing?
Yeah,
I don't know. Just thought.
And be a sponge.
I think so. I just think it's funny because at one point you're going to be like, oh. I can't say that. I'm the guy. I do know the most about this right now.
Yeah.
So
can't wait for that day to happen. HiFi, another super chat. Sorry, man, I missed this. Any insight on a 16 Ultra successor? It's time. I would imagine that's the SBS you're talking about.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything.
No, nothing.
I think they're pretty set, man. They've got their. I mean, they've got a product line from baby subwoofers, micro subwoofers, budget subwoofers, mid-range subwoofers,
And the new
high-end
like in
subwoofers.
walls that they just got going on. So they
they've
got a lot
got
of stuff going on.
They do, man. I don't see actually a need, honestly, because I've already talked to Nick. They have no desire to go into. They're not trying to chase after JTR. They're not trying to chase after Seaton or Power Sound Audio. Those guys that are doing 18-inch, and some of these other companies like Stereo Integrity that are doing 21s and 24s. They're like, that's not our bread and butter, man. Our bread and butter is the masses. You know, the kind of the not the average guys, but basically the very affordable. We're trying to make a great product that, you know, people, I like that too, man. Subwoofers. I love it when y'all say that, dude. That I think it's awesome, man. I've never pronounced it like subwoofer, but I think it's cool. But yeah, man, I don't see them, you know, going down
making another one. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
They may.
Only time will tell. Yeah.
No, it would be honestly. I would think it'd be really cool if they came out with something like a 2 PB16. You know what I think? I think cool. They would come out with the 15, something smaller with the same performance as the 16. No, that might work. Yeah.
That would be cool.
But
that thing's way too big for my living room.
It's 175 pounds. It's a big. It's very, very deep. So it sticks out quite a bit in your room. And most people can go taller than they can deeper.
Multiple, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I have those two stacked.
Yeah. For sure, man.
Tom, I answered you in the chat. Yeah, I've experienced the behind the screen series at CEDIA 2019, and it's pretty awesome.
That's their cinema series. So.
Yeah, where everything's behind the screen. The front stage is behind the screen with 2 subwoofers.
Yeah, it's very similar to what Crix is doing. They've got kind of a front wall. Tony's got that in his setup.
Yeah.
So PK Hamu's got a question. 2 below that. Youthman, thoughts on laser UST projectors ceiling mount in a dedicated room on a regular screen instead of ALR ones? So a couple of things, even in a dedicated theater room, because I asked this question, can you, or I know where it came from. At CEDIA, they had a dedicated room built, so fully light controlled. You can get that room pitch black. And they were still using an ALR screen with the ultra short throw. And I'm thinking, why would you need that? And I even asked him, like, can you benefit from an ultra short throw screen, or an ALR screen? So think about this. The angle at which the laser is hitting that screen is pretty stinking steep. I mean, we're talking probably 45-degree angle. And so normal path of light is kind of angle of incidence, angle of reflection. I mean, I know it scatters and bends, but for the most part, that's a pretty steep angle.
See, I've told you, this guy knows. This guy knows right here. All right.
So, but the thing is that it's but the thing is, it's going to want to reflect not towards you, but towards the ceiling. And you really want all that light coming towards your eyes. Standard projector, you've got it pretty much in line with the screen. So it's hitting the screen and coming right back to you. So even if you were to mount it on the ceiling, I would still recommend an ALR screen. The weird thing to me, and this is, I haven't really asked this question because most people don't mount those on the ceiling. Number one, you need to make sure that projector can do that. I've reviewed a bunch of them, and not all of them have a setting in there to inverse that image. So you need to make sure, number one, it can actually do that.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah. So you'd have to actually inverse the image if you're going to flip the projector upside down. So not all of those have that capability. But my other concern is, okay, now you're up top. It's hitting that same angle. So a lot of that light's wanting to hit your floor. So you don't want that happening. So my thought is you would want to take your screen, the ALR screen, and flip it upside down. But then the problem with that now, actually, I think I just answered my own question. That would not be advisable in a non-light controlled room where you got a lot of ambient light, because it defeats the purpose of that light being rejected. But if you can get your room totally dark, I would flip the screen upside down so that because they've got notches. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Yeah, the little stair step. It looks kind of like a mirror. Like, if you wanted to reflect something towards you, you'd make it 45 degrees. right? So
That is correct. I was going to see if I can pull up just like a quick.
But you know what's interesting? What you said is the whole idea. You know, they call it now ceiling light rejection. Right?
That's another one too. Correct. That's
So
a CLR screen.
CLR screen, meaning you're trying to reject any of the light coming usually from the top, right? Most people don't have lights on the floor beaming up. It's from your ceiling
That is
coming
correct.
down, so it's gonna prevent that light from getting to you. And it actually, you're saying, why would you use one of those rejecting screens, light rejecting screens in a controlled room?
Right.
It's also because you're getting reflections off your walls too.
True.
So
yeah, true.
I don't know how much reflects back onto the screen, but I do notice that some of these are so bright. Some of these ultra short throws are so bright that, like, so I've tried one here. I've actually tried it on a non CLR ALR screen, and it just starts like lighting up the whole room.
Yeah.
It's like you almost have the lights on in the front of your room. It's just when there's like a bright white screen, oh my goodness, like everything's lit up.
Throw this up there real quick. So
I don't know
what I was talking about. You can kind of see these little, like what Joe's saying, the little stair. So you can see how the angle of that, if you didn't have that ALR screen, it's going to want to naturally bounce up to your ceiling. And so because of those angles, that light is now going straight across like this, or actually I guess that on the graph, straight at your eyes. So if you put it on the ceiling, you're no longer going to be rejecting light from the top. But if it's a fully light controlled room, that's not an issue. So I think you're totally good there. So
and also make sure that the projector has a way to mount it. But usually you would assume.
I think they're going to have it. Well, here's the thing: if it's going to have the ability to inverse that image, they know you're going to be mounting it on a ceiling.
So they're going to plan for that, right? Otherwise,
yeah, you're at least going to have some mounting screw holes in the bottom, and then you just buy a universal mount. I would imagine.
Sometimes I don't like to assume, because sometimes the feature's there because they're kind of just using the system from their old other projector, right? And just make sure that there's mounting brackets on the bottom of the thing to mount upside down. Yeah. I
think that would work good, but
I like the idea. I think it's actually pretty cool to put a ceiling. What we need is ultra short throw, ceiling mount. We need the ceiling light rejecting, or the light rejecting screen, but then we need the screen to also be acoustic transparent.
Yeah, for sure.
You get that combination right there, and it's very nice for a lot of people.
Bam.
So here's one thing that's this is the all right. True story. Guy messages me literally 2 nights ago, and he's like, "Hey man, I need some help because I cannot get this thing lined up. I've played and played and played." And so I pulled up the manual, and they tell you how far they recommend. They wanted like 16.5 inches from the wall for I think he has a 120-inch screen. So he's got a larger screen. Bigger the screen, the further back.
Sure.
So that's good, but they don't tell you how high you need to mount it, like below the screen. That's going to add, I'll be honest, that's going to add, well, I guess if you have the ability to lengthen the pole that the ceiling mount is on, if you're doing it on a pole, that may help. But just imagine this: you're going to have to mount that up there, and you're going to have to figure out how high to mount that projector screen. And so you may have, depending on how high your ceilings are, like in mine, probably wouldn't work real well because my ceiling is 10 foot. So that means the bottom of my screen is probably going to be 8 foot, off the ground. Did I say that right? The top part of my screen would be 8 foot if I've got a 10-foot ceiling. You know what I'm saying? It's like 2 foot. So anyway, so it could add some complexities there. So
the guy was having a tough time aligning it because of, for what reason exactly?
Sorry, well, think about it. So here's the other thing. More than likely, people sometimes they'll mount their screen because that's where they want it visually and everything.
Right.
But then you've got this cabinet that is fixed at a certain height. You have no play of raising. I mean, you got a little bit of, the knobs on the bottom you can adjust, but they're not much. And so I know we've reviewed enough of them that they're kind of a pain in the butt to do. because of that. So my buddy built a adjustable rack that he can literally move the shelves up and down by loosening the bolts to make that shelf go up and down, because it's a challenge.
You're basically saying figure out where the image is going to be and then move the screen according to that.
Yes, correct.
That's easier.
Yeah. The screen kind of is almost like it's weird, man. It's a challenge. So what I've been appreciating is when a manufacturer in their manual gives you both the distance from the wall and the distance to the bottom of the screen, because then you've got a pretty good, okay, you're like, I need to really mount it pretty close to this to get this size image, because they know those measurements.
The other thing that's tricky about these ultra short throw that you wouldn't expect, because you'd think like, oh, it just works like it's a projector, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so close, any tiny little movement moves it like crazy, like a little nudge.
Yeah. It's truly, it's difficult to get every like without doing any kind of, for lack of better words, I'm just going to call it keystoning. It's basically what they call geometric shaping or geometric something.
Geometric tomfoolery is what it is.
Yeah, literally.
I'm talking about like this type of movement. Tell me if I'm wrong, Michael. Like
I get it. You just
like
barely move it.
This little is like
your top does this. It wonks out.
That was like the thing I hated the most about that Vava. Like I could not. I was on the phone with Joe. I'm like, dude, I cannot get this right. I'm so over this.
I'll show you one thing that I would definitely recommend is and also what we're saying is moving it like this, right?
Yeah.
But then there's also the little screws on the bottom that they could go up and down, and that's a whole different measurement.
I'll
tell you one. Here's a tip. I'll show you.
It's a challenge, man. It really is.
Can I show it? Get one of these. Okay. Number one, if you have ultra short throw, get one of these little laser meters, right?
Right.
And one of the settings there is based on gravity. Like the thing moves around, but it'll settle.
Right.
So it knows what level is, right? So if your house is level, then it'll be okay. But use this to set the level of the ultra short throw first, right? So if it's hopefully there's a line somewhere on that ultra short throw, whether it's the top or the bottom, make sure that that's flat first, right? And look at the sides. Make sure that that thing is not all weird.
Right.
That's number one. Get that first. And then the next thing would be get the distance to the wall exact, right? You got a Bosch one. Yeah. So
I use that today to mount the acoustic panels.
Yeah, they're awesome for that, right? So just use it for that. And then you can use one of these to make sure that your screen is properly set. Because even small things will annoy you. If it's a little bit off, it'll annoy you. So get this for $25. And it'll help you a lot in that calibration. And then, so once you know that your ultra short throw is level, your screen is level, now it's just the distance forward and backwards is going to determine how big the screen is, right? And as long as they're the same distance from the screen, now you don't have to worry about the skew, right? If it's the same exact distance from the wall or the screen, then now all you have to do is adjust the height up and down. So anyway, you want to try to minimize the number of things that you can change. And you usually try to not use any digital keystone.
Yeah.
Nice and clear.
If you can. It's hard though, I'll be honest, man. It's so much easier to go, I'm just gonna bend that corner, man, because this is EIA, man. This is
I was so frustrated with that.
It's hard, man.
It's hard, yeah.
That's the biggest challenge, that, and where do you put your center channel if you're mounting it on the bottom. So those two things are, they just add some complexity, but I like the format. I think they're a good fit, especially for those living room situations that you got a lot of ambient light. You got 20,000 hours on the laser, which is phenomenal. You can watch regular TV. Perfect setup for Joe,
Yep.
Kids come in there, they want to watch a big movie time. You're not worried about burning up a bulb and
cartoons all day.
Dude, that's awesome. No, they're super cool and they're really bright.
I wanted to share this too before we go. This is kind of an interesting thing. I know we're running pretty late, but this thing, we always talk about how subs don't integrate into 2-channel setups very well. because there's usually no delay for the main speakers, right? So I'm wondering if this might help somebody out. Basically, I don't know how well it works.
Interesting.
I just saw it. It's an RCA input and then RCA output, and then you dial in the amount of delay here.
Huh.
So
Like,
that
for
might
people
be
that
useful
have
to
like
somebody.
AV sync issues.
Where, let's say, I mean, it's not the ideal situation, but let's say if you have RCA coming out from whatever your source is, right? Maybe your preamp. Okay, so you have your preamp, let's say, whatever that preamp is, and then you'd have to use a splitter, so it's not great, but you could use a Y splitter. So, a pair goes into this, and that goes into your integrated amp, and the other goes to your subwoofer, which has delay, and now you can use this to delay the amount of the
main speakers.
Main speakers. If you're not a mini DSP type of person and you don't want to mess around with stuff, there's a knob right there.
Yep.
I thought it might be a cool idea if anybody wants to try that out.
These guys love knobs. They were talking about it.
They're all about the knob feel. Yeah. Anyway, let's wrap it up.
That's right. 2 hours today.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it's from all those super chats. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much. We totally appreciate everything, and we are so glad you are here. If you like to listen to the what is it
audio
called?
Only version,
the audio only, go to anchor.fm/daily HiFi. And if you want to jump into the after show that we're what?
We lost you, buddy. Your lips are frozen. There you go. You're back.
Oh, it's bad. Okay. Don't forget to go to the after show, patreon.com/daily HiFi. And we'll see you just in a few minutes. But for those of you that are watching on the replay or listening on the podcast, we do this every Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. Join us for all the fun. On behalf of myself, Joe, Michael,